Welcome to the Homeownership Podcast presented by Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. This series covers all things real estate and the best practices for buying, selling, and owning properties. Now here's your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to episode 133, The Grass is Always Greener. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. This week I want to talk to you about how to renovate that lawn for the fall. How to make your grass the greener grass of the neighborhood. How to increase that curb appeal from your home that already looks like it's all burnt, took a rough summer, and now it's time to get it looking right. Grass is actually a pretty easy subject that a lot of people fail to understand. The best way I can explain it to you is it's just like a child, just like a baby. You only get one opportunity. You can't just skip giving a baby food or water and come back and give it twice as much the next day and have it be healthy. You can't just skip paying attention to it. You can't skip the major and minor items. Otherwise, you end up with a huge problem later on down the line that you did by avoiding what needs to happen. For those of you who know me, you know that I used to own a tree and landscape company. For those who don't, it was my career, and what we specialized in was always making sure people's lawns looked great, plants looked great, and everything was green, and it was the envy of the neighborhood. Now, one of the first things I used to say to people, and I said it all jokes aside, how green your wallet is how green your lawn is, because the truth of the lawn is there's only one or two things that can happen. You put in effort, or I put in effort. If we don't put in effort, then it's just going to go bad. So for people hiring people, if you're not happy with the results that they're creating, sometimes, yes, it's them to blame, but often it's to do with not willing to spend the amount of money it takes to have a proper lawn. That said, it all can be done yourself, and this is a place where you can save a lot of money by just paying attention by yourself, not having to pay anybody and just taking care of it. One of the first things you want to start off with is understanding your soil. Your soil is very important. The soil is not just the idea of was it sand or is it loam, but also in the idea of what is the soil micro and macronutrients looking like? What is the pH level? So one of the first things I'm going to recommend you do is take a soil sample. And you can either send it off to UMass Amherst, who does soil sample testing, or you can go to a local place such as Site 1 where they test it on spot. Site 1 used to be known as John Deere Landscapes. It's a commercial landscape supply. You can find them in a lot of different places. I know there's one in Pembroke, there's one in Wareham, and they're scattered about the state. The other thing is lots of the agricultural colleges and high schools will do that testing for you. And even now, you can jump on Amazon and you can get a testing kit and even test it yourself. The point of doing this test is it's going to tell you the imbalances in your soil. It's going to tell you what level your pH is at. And I know for those of you just getting started in lawn, it might not make sense to what all this means. That's when you want to hire somebody to take care of the lawn fertilizations and pay attention to who you hire. I'm not going to bash any names because I don't want to cause any trouble for anybody, but I can tell you most of the time, all the major corporations are absolutely horrendous at taking care of a lawn. Now, I know they're going to advertise a price like $19.99 a month or different crazy things like that. Well, guess what? If you want to spend $20 a month on your lawn, well, why don't you just drive down Route 3 and throw a $20 bill out the window because your lawn's going to do just as well as it does with what they come and do. You need to hire someone that understands what they're doing. Not saying the most expensive, but somebody who understands what they're doing. I would highly recommend a local mom and pop shop for the idea of making sure that they care about your lawn and they care about you as a client. And then the other thing is when you are paying somebody, don't be afraid to squeak. If you're paying someone for a lawn and you're having them take care of everything, there's no reason you should have weeds. There's no reason you should have crabgrass. And if you do, you should give them a call. There's no reason you should have grubs. All the other problems with lawns that you should not be dealing with. So if you're having those issues and you have a lawn care fertilization expert, you can reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on with our program? Where are we going wrong? And that way there, you're maximizing the potential because most of them allow free callbacks, which means that if they're not doing their job right, they come back for free. You're not going to add extra money. And if they start trying to blame you, then start thinking about another company. I've noticed this happens often. People say, oh, well, I called and they said I have this problem or that problem. You paid them at the beginning of the year for all coverage. The only problem that's acceptable that I know that they sometimes bill extra for is when there's fungal problems. This year, being 2021, we had an exceptional amount of rain, and I know some people are having fungal problems. Fungus is something that really comes out when we have high humidity and excess moisture all the time. This is something that they don't normally put into the programs because it's not normally necessary. That may be an add-on. I do understand that. So just wanted to be upfront about the idea that fungus is something that may cost you a little bit extra money. Now, when it comes time to lawn renovation, now that you've had your soil tested, you understand, of course, we want to have 3 to 5 inches of loam material. If you don't have that, unfortunately, you might need to do a scrape out. You might need to scrape out the sand in order to keep the elevations right and bring in soil. Bring in something that's a loamy material that's going to hold water but also has organic and inert material in it in order to make the grass healthier and want to grow, but also the root systems be able to hold and maintain water as well as be able to live there happily with air in the soil and all the important things that go on with soil. Now, most people, when they have a dead lawn, they think, okay, I'm going to rototill it, or I'm going to do some craziness with the bobcat, I'm going to pull it all out. The truth is, most of the time, when you have a lawn that's subpar and is dead, the best thing you can do is a multi-step process. First, you want to mow it as short as possible. Don't even bother bagging it. That extra grass is going to be okay. It's going to be bedding. Next, you want to go through with something called a split seeder, or you want to go over it with an aerator, or better yet, do both aerate and split seed. This is going to create new gaps and holes in order for the seed to fall in, not wash away, but also allow the water to go down into the soil better and also break up the existing grass layer so the seeds can have soil contact. One thing a lot of people don't understand about grass seed is if grass seed doesn't have soil contact, it does not want to germinate. So we want to see that soil contact. Now that we've split seeded or we've aerated, we then want to go with a rotary spreader and spread more seed over the top. Then, if we can, we want to go by with a spring rake, which is a metal rake, the one that has little tines that are a little bouncy to them, almost like a fall leaf rake, but the metal version. Go through and rough it up a little bit and just get all that seed kind of flipped and flopped all through the soil. That way there, the birds don't come, have a field day, have some lunch, and ruin our grass, but also so that the seeds are protected and the idea of having the sun protection so they stay moist longer. That's one of the reasons we want to do it in the fall. Last but not least, we want to cover that with starter fertilizer, as well as normally with the soil sample. I'm not just going to throw it out there, but most people around here in Massachusetts are going to find that their soil is very acidic. So if you find that, then you want to put a lime down at the same time as well. Now here's where the key comes in. You need to water regularly. This is back to the baby mentality. How does grass relate to a baby? Well, inside of a grass seed, there's one thing called a germ. The germ is the little living piece that when hit with water activates and starts growing. The unique part about a germ is it's just like an embryo. If the embryo, say, doesn't get taken care of for a day and it passes away, we have what's called a miscarriage. Well, with grass, if we water that seed and the germ gets started, and then we don't water it because, say, we go to the cousin's house for a pool day and we don't water it, and it's 90 degrees out and it dries out and burns up, you don't get to double water that germ the next day and have it spontaneously come back to life. You've had a miscarriage on grass. I know it sounds harsh to word it like that, but it's the best way for me to get people to understand that you're dealing with a living thing. Until you see the little neon green hairs and you see the pieces of grass sticking up, they don't have a root connecting them to the ground, which means that they're really fragile at this point because they're not connected to the ground to suck up any groundwater. So this means unless their actual physical surface stays wet, they're drying out. Now they do have the husk, just like any other shell or seed. That husk that's wrapped around the germ is going to keep it damp longer than what appears on the outside edge. But these ragingly hot days that can happen in late August or really, really sunny points where, sometimes the air might not be that hot, but if you touch the pavement or you touch another dark surface, you're going to find a lot of heat there. Same thing out on your lawn. So you want to make sure you keep that wet. When you first have grass, probably 2 to 3 times a day. Sometimes you even got to give it a little spritz if it's super hot, but we're going to get it started. As we see those little neon green hairs start, now we know we have some grass. Now we want to start slowing the water down to 1 to 2 times a day, depending on the dampness level. What you can do is take your finger or the back of your heel, rub the soil and see subsurface just below, maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch down, is there moisture? If not, needs more water. But what we don't want to do is put that grass physically to bed wet. What I mean by physically to bed wet, we don't want to see water on the blades right before bedtime. So we want to do our watering early morning and pretty much mid to late afternoon so that the actual surface layers are drying out. Why? Because of that word fungus. We don't want to get fungus growing on our grass. So as we work our way along, we're going to continue to water less and less often, allowing the grass to get stronger and stronger roots. Because if we water all the time, the roots are going to be really shallow. They get spoiled. They don't have to dig deep. Now, once the grass reaches a layer where we need to mow it, we want to push mow it at least 4 times before any activity like running, football, soccer, any of that, as well as big ride-on lawnmowers. We want to mow it 4 times without a bag on so that it gets those clippings back down. We don't want to leave it way too long though, because when we're mowing without a bagger, we really want to only be taking off a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch. One thing that's unique about grass is when you cut the top of it off, it shoots side tillers out, which are other pieces of grass that want to come up to the surface as well. The more we do that, the more the grass is going to create a tuft, which is like a mound of grass, and it's going to continue to spread. If we let the grass grow too long and we cut it way too far out, one, the material that we cut and leave on the ground, the clippings, is going to not break down in time. But two, just like your fingernail, there's something called a crown. It's just like our fingernail has a cuticle. If that grows out too far and you cut it, you do real damage to the grass. And also the grass will go to seed. When the grass goes to seed, it will tend to not grow as healthy and dense, so we don't want to let that happen. When we have good grass, we want to mow it at least once a week, but the truth is if you mow your lawn twice a week, you'll have even a more dense carpet. Just remember, as you're mowing seasonally, up and down with the blades, depending on what time of year it is. Midsummer, we want to be at the highest. Spring and fall, when it's wet, we can go a lot lower and we can have success. Just remember though, 4 times before you get on that lawn. Now, let's go over just some other quick steps that you can make sure that your lawn's good. 1, irrigation system. If you can get one, great. If you can't, you need to think about yourself as the irrigation system. If you ever thought to yourself, I need more time for myself, I need to take more time to just relax, watering a lawn can be very relaxing. So I don't know about your town. If your town has regulations and you decide to adhere to them, great. If you don't, great. Just make sure if you think it's going to be trouble that you get a well. Wells can save you a lot of trouble. The other thing is if you live on a lake or a pond or a river, you may be able to get a pump system where you pump that water out depending on your water rights for your local area. Now, I'm not telling you to break the laws or rules, but I am surprised that on a year where it rains every single day that they still tell you you can't use the water. I'm not sure what's going on here, but it doesn't seem like much freedom is being had anymore. Now, with grass, it takes water. So if you're a person that doesn't like to water your grass, well, I suggest other crops like clover and weeds and things like that that'll be okay. They'll be green, they'll be okay, they just won't look like a lawn. And, ultimately, anything you can do to keep the mud down is going to be good. But watering is very important. The other thing is a multi-step fertilization program. If you don't have one of those in place, then I'd say you should order one or you should put one together yourself. The good part is if you do the soil sample that I told you about at the beginning of this episode, they're going to tell you what materials to put down in such quantities, because they're going to tell you what's wrong with your soil as far as where the amendments need to change things. Is there a micro or macronutrient deficiency? Is there a pH level that's unacceptable? Is it too high or too low? They're going to tell you all this so you can gauge it in. But just remember again, you have to keep to the program. If you don't keep to the program, skipping 1 month and then doubling down on fertilizer will burn the grass. We can't just double up on it. That's not how it works, so we need to follow the thing. If you fall off for a little bit, come back at it and just start where you are and work your way back to the top. Well, I hope this episode helps you understand how to have greener grass and how to have the grass greener on your side of the world. The truth is the grass is always greener. Don't worry about what your neighbor's lawn looks like. Worry about what you're looking to have. Not everyone needs to have a golf course for a lawn, and some people are perfectly fine with having weeds. The only thing I would recommend is don't have dirt and mud there, because when you go to buy or sell a home, not too many people are interested in lawns that are dirt. Thank you so much for listening today. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends and family about the podcast and suggest they subscribe as well. Check out our weekly newsletter, blog, Facebook group. A lot of great free information about buying, selling, and owning a home. And if you're ever looking for an agent, that can help you with everything buying, selling, and owning a home, reach out to us over here at Momentum Realty. We'd be happy to help you connect with one of our Move Mentors, which is what we call our real estate agents, because we believe they guide you in buying, selling, and owning a home, and that they act as a mentor to make sure you get the process right and not so much a salesperson. Thank you so much again, and have a great day.